I think we are live. Is anybody out there? Hopefully somebody comes online and confirm that we are live, but I can imagine that we are live. I'm just gonna check to see, just give me 1 minute.
Imagine bringing your side project to life just by thinking about it. Meet Base.
Do I check that? Guys, welcome to my live stream. If you are stopping by for the first time, please make sure you are subscribed. Click on the like button, share the stream if you can. We are live in this video. I'm going to be sharing with you all. Yes, we are live. I can see that. Welcome once again, Hardwareflipper here. If you are joining me for the first time, I sell, laptops, pretty much flip desktop PCs, laptop monitors on eBay for profit. And this is what I do. And in this particular live stream, I'm going to be going over some items that I've sold since the last time. I think the last time we did this, we actually did, stop at this HP Z230 workstation right here. I was telling you guys that it was a little bit difficult to pack. It was so heavy. I think I did make a video out of it, just explaining to you guys why sometimes the item doesn't need to be very, very heavy for you to make profits. And this was exactly where we stopped. The problem is I can't really see who is online and who is not, because OBS is something I'm still kind of getting used to. But how do I check that actually? Perhaps I have to go on to my, just give me 1 minute. Let me see, docs, audio, YouTube control live panel. Let me see if I can be logged on to that, and then if I can be logged on to my YouTube live control panel, perhaps I can see who is online. Sometimes it just makes sense to see if somebody is kind of online, even if the person is not chatting, but it makes a lot of it kind of gives a lot of the impression that yes, you are actually communicating. But then if you are there and my audio is not the way it should be, please try to tell me about it so that I can see what I can change. But from my side, I see the green bars moving, so I imagine that everything is working as it should. All right. So I'm going to my, it wants me to verify my account. Just give me 1 minute to get my phone. All right. I have that now, and we are almost done. Can't seem to see that. All right, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to go ahead because I can't seem to see this function that I need right here. Let's try to. All right, doesn't matter. Anyway, I was talking about, the high value items that I've sold on eBay, and I'm just going to try to, go over these high value items. Perhaps it could be something that might be interesting for you guys to know. The truth is, sorry, my chair is kind of squeaky right now. I don't know. I need to kind of fix that. The truth is, eBay has been pretty much very good in the last few days. I am kind of impressed, never had it, so beautiful like this. In the last 1 week, the last video I made was on the last, video on the items that sold. I can't really tell, but the last item was on the 9th of September. today is 21st of September, pretty much like 10 days later. And these high value items, I'm talking about items that are really, really expensive. Of course, these are items that you kind of need some special skill sets to pull off. I mean, not like you need to go to some school or some university to learn how to do them, but the thing is, these are items that you pretty much should know if they are, sellable on the platform. And you actually have to know also how to handle these items, because if you cannot handle these items, some of these transactions can go wrong and you stand a chance to lose a lot of money. Of course, they are also very fragile items. One thing I have noticed about these expensive items on eBay, that sometimes they tend to be very fragile, and packing them, you also have to be very careful as to ensure that you do a very good job in ensuring that the items get packed, get shipped out, and the buyer receives them without any problems. All right. If you are joining the stream, please do not forget to smash the like button. Send me a hello or kind of write me something in the chat. If you also have questions, that's actually the reason why I am, making this stream, because if you have questions, this will be a good time to get to also answer your questions. Of course, I'm still going to be making my coffee sessions, which is telling you guys some of the strategies that I use, to pull this off. But without, much ado, we're just going to go ahead and, keep reeling off. The last item, like I said, was this HP Z230. And the next item that sold was the Lenovo ThinkPad E14 Gen 3. This is one beautiful laptop that I have sold not once, not twice. And I was also impressed that this laptop kind of kept selling, because this laptop, if I remember correctly, I also did make a video about it. This was something that was listed for quite a while on the platform, never sold, nobody was expressing interest. And somehow, it is what it is. I just didn't know what to do, but I kept leaving it there. I didn't want to delete it. I didn't want to edit anything, because when I was listing this item, I knew that the item itself was supposed to be a very, very, good item. An item that when people go on searching on eBay for the Lenovo ThinkPad E14 and anybody finds it, person is pretty much going to say, yes, this is a good offer, because the offer, the price, the quality of the configuration, the quality of the item itself, the item was used, but in very, very good condition. And this is something that I knew was going to sell, but one way or the other, it just kept, hanging there. Didn't know what to do. But when the first one sold, the second one also sold almost immediately. That's the laptop here. See, I'm actually covering the rest of the details with this part of the video, which is my face, because the data of the buyers, I do not want to show the names of the buyers just to, for privacy reasons. But then this particular Lenovo ThinkPad E14 Gen 3 sold for 368 euros and 96 cents. This is hard money, buyer paid, and the item has since been shipped out, has since been delivered on the 15th of September. And yes, that is one of the first items. This next item that sold was a HP 120 watts AC adapter. All right. And this right here is something I have a lot in the warehouse, still have a lot of them. And even though this one have sold, it shows here 0. I just need to update that. That is not correct, because I still have this particular stuff right here. I'm just going to edit the offer. And I can put like 3 pieces for now. Of course, I have well over 3 pieces of this stuff. And I'm just going to save the listing. So that is done. That is done. Perhaps if I have to refresh this, it should then come out as all right. So right now I have 3 pieces of this particular charger right here. Is a HP Elite Desk or Elite Book charger, 120 watts. I also have the 65 watts. I think I have the 90 watts and the 120 watts. And I think I also did have the 200 watts or something like that. I received them a long time ago, pretty much a long time ago. And it's just been selling, not like hotcake, but every now and then these are items that tend to sell. And I am just so happy that this item is there, sold for €16.90. And then this tablet right here is an iPad Air 5. This is one iPad that has been selling very well. I'm also surprised because it's a little bit expensive, but then I feel like the market is just, there are still a lot of people, watching out for good items to buy. Sometimes you might be thinking that eBay is now just a platform that's full of people just not, willing to spend money to, to buy something that's good. But I kind of feel like with the sale of this iPad, it sold for 451 euros and it sold, keeps selling. I'm just going to take a look to see how many times it has sold. It has sold well over 4 times and it just keeps selling, and I'm surprised that people out there still value quality. All right, they sold for 451 euros 3 cents, like I said, and this price actually does include shipping. This is the iPad Air 5, iPad Air 5th Gen 2022, 10.9-inch with space gray. The color is space gray. This is the color from Apple. It calls gray, but in German we call it space grau. So my eBay is in Germany. I sell from Germany here, and sometimes you might be seeing, the text of this screen right here all in German. But then the next item that sold was an iPad 8 Gen 2020. This has also been selling. I think I've sold like 3 or 4 pieces of this. This is one good. You see, this iPad Air Gen, iPad Air 5th Gen, and this iPad 8 Gen, these are 2 items that I did personally research myself. When I checked, I saw that these items were selling and I felt like, okay, I also want to be part of this, these transactions. People were blasting it, people were killing it, people were selling like 10, 15 a day. And I felt like I wanted to be part of this, this rush, kind of a gold rush, let me say that. But then I was able to find it. Even then, I was still not, ranking in terms of price. The buyer, the seller that was already there killing it still had a better price. But what I did do was to try to make a better picture, just change this wallpaper right here. And that pretty much kind of caught the attention of people, because sometimes I come here to tell you guys, yes, you have to be the best in terms of price, but sometimes we do not also know how the algorithm works. Even though I'm not the best in terms of price, of course, I'm not also like $550 or 50 euros more expensive than the next seller. I think about 10 or 15 euros more expensive, but I really did include that my iPads are in very, very good condition, excellent condition, refurbished, grade A. And perhaps there are some people that just want this confirmation. Nobody wants to spend as much as 400 or 216 euros and then realize that the item is not in the best condition. So this iPad Air 8 Gen sold for 216 euros. Sorry, I'm here looking at the camera. Sometimes I have to look at the screen. Bear with me, but the main thing that matters is that you can hear the sound of my voice. Then we had Lenovo ThinkCentre M700 small form factor PC selling. This is a bad boy PC. Keep selling all the time. 118 euros. Sold for 118 euros with 17 cents, including shipping. And I still have a lot of this. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to take a look. Up till now, it says here 4 pieces have been sold, but this is one PC that I've sold for years. I've sold them. Sometimes I have to delete the offer, release it. And sometimes when you delete and release, you like you all know, you stand the chance of being, the offer gets indexed again, sometimes goes higher in the search. And yes, this is what it is. Sometimes we kind of do that also. It's a strategy that everybody's kind of known. But this one right here has since been delivered as well, delivered on the 19th. Like I said, today is the 21st of September. And then another iPad 8 Gen 2020 also sold 120 gigabytes, sold for 216 euros and 52 cents, pretty much the same price, because on this particular listing, I do not have the variation listing that I do have on my laptops or on my desktop PCs. It's a tablet. It's a 128 gigabytes SSD or whatever storage device it has. And it's pretty much fixed. The price is fixed. I don't think I have the option for people to, send me a price request, because at this price, the profit is already very tight. And I do not want to begin to, give it an additional discount, because at the end of the day, it's just going to amount to nothing. So on this particular tablet here, I think, if I remember correctly, I'm able to do up to 40, 50 euros, profit reselling it after all said and done. But sometimes it's not always the case, because everything actually depends on how good you buy or how cheap you buy this stuff, the condition in which the item is, and if it's delivered and the buyer does not tend to return it, But if this sells and the buyer keeps it, yes, definitely, I'm looking at a 40, 50 euro, profit line on something like this, just because the competition is already there and it's very, very hard to set a price that is so high above what, the major seller is selling. Then what else sold? A Lenovo ThinkPad E14 Gen 3 is the same thing, sold for 349 euros, 45 cents. The price might be different from the first one. Yes, the first one was 368 because the buyer obviously had a different configuration, and this is something I always tend to do. I see a lot of people, perhaps just out of sheer laziness, out of maybe lack of the knowledge to pull this off. Listing your item as a variation is the best thing you can actually do if you flip used pieces for profit on eBay. You see, if you list these items as a variation, you stand the chance of getting people coming to your shop and never leaving, because if they leave because they cannot find what they want, that's not good for you. It's not good for the algorithm. The algorithm thinks that your shop is not converting and gives this traffic next time to somebody else. But if you list this item, if you go to this listing now on my shop, you actually have the option to the buyer actually has the option to buy this PC right here. It's since been deleted because I do not have this laptop anymore. You have the the RAM. The buyer can actually decide if he or she wants an 8 gigabyte DDR4 RAM or 16 gigabyte, and as well as the SSD hard drive. You can choose which one you want: 256, 512, 1 terabyte. The list goes on and on and on. And this is exactly, see, in total we sold 3 before the offer was actually deleted. But then this Lenovo ThinkPad E14 Gen 3, if you are in the market and you perhaps you get the opportunity to buy them from companies, and you can be certain that they are very good in that they are in very good condition, this is one good laptop to sell, because Lenovo ThinkPad Primo, they are business laptops. They are needed all over. They are needed in schools. They are needed in organizations. Everybody just want to have a taste of the ThinkPad, because truth be said, they are really, really solid, decent laptop, cute. This is a 14 inches Ryzen processor, Ryzen 5 5500U, 2 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, 8 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, and it has also Windows 11 Professional installed in it. Next item was an iPad Air 5. Again, like I said, when one item seems to be selling, it just keep going on and on and on. The iPad killed it this week. I am impressed because I'm amazed. You see, truth be said, I've always said on this channel, the iPad products, the Apple products, it doesn't matter if it's an iPad, AirPods, iPhone, these are one magic items on eBay. The only problem is that they are very, very difficult to get. If you get them and they are in very good condition and the price is right, you pretty much list them and just relax, and they just keep selling. With every sale, you net whatever profit that you have to net. You do not need to release the item. You don't need to edit the listing. You don't need to reply unnecessarily to any emails, because everybody already knows the item itself markets itself. Apple has done a very good job in the iPad, in the iPhone, that when people see it, all they want to know is, what generation is this? If you say it's an iPad Air 5th gen, boom, they go for it. They do not want to ask you, how is the camera? Is it fast? How is, everybody knows that the iPhone or the iPad or the Apple product generally, they are made with so much precision. They are pretty much the best right now. So that sold for 451 euros and 3 cents once again. And the next item that sold here was an Intel Core i5-8400 processor, sold for 41 euros and 90 cents. This is a processor that I have. I pretty much have like 3, and I think 2 already sold. We are still going to get to that. This, sometimes I receive PCs. There was a HP PC I received some time ago. There were like 3 pieces of them. I got them, but the problem with these PCs was that they were actually, not looking in the best optical condition. I didn't want to sell them, because if I would have sold them, yes, somebody might have bought them thinking that they are, refurbished PCs in very good condition, only for the person to see that there are a lot of scratches. So what I did do was to, to tear the PC up, and went ahead, did some, I took out all the parts, made sure that the valuable part like the processor, the power supply, the main board, everything was listed. And I think the power supply already sold. One of the main board I also think sold. And now the processors are selling. It's a Core i5-8400, sold for 41 euros and 90 cents. And then there was a Fujitsu Livebook E744 14-inch, laptop. This is a beautiful one right here because this is also something I got, way back, never really listed them, but 1 week, I think that was like 3 weeks ago when things were not really selling on eBay. I felt like this was something I wanted to list, and I did list them. Boom, today, or when did they sell? On the 19th, today is 21st, on the 19th, sold for 99 euros. It was a giveaway price. I'm going to be packing it today. Today is Sunday, but I'm still in the warehouse, just trying to kind of update myself, get some things rolling because I've really been, challenged by time lately. And one thing I have to do is just to, work extra hours. Not like stressing myself, of course, but I want to come up to speed with these videos also. I want to come up to speed with some of my, bookkeeping work. I want to come up to speed with some of the listing tasks. So it's going to be like this, going forward, which is kind of, showing up pretty much more often, trying to list more items and also trying to be more strategic with the bookkeeping processes. And then the next item that sold was an iPad Air 5th Gen, also sold for 451 euros. An iPad 8th Gen followed again. It kind of appears like each time an iPad, an iPad Air 5th Gen says, an iPad Air 8th Gen says, no, I'm also here. I also need to be sold. I also want to get out of the warehouse and go to somebody's hands. And then it sold again, somebody's hands, and then sold for 216 euros 52 cents. And once again, the processor, like I told you guys, Core i5-8400 sold again for 41. I'm going to be packing all these items today because Monday is going to be different. There's definitely going to be a lot also going on Monday. Somebody reached out to me that one of the PCs I shipped out, which was this Lenovo PC right here, just this one right here. All right, it was the Lenovo ThinkCentre M710S, which sold for 259 euros 39 cents. Person reached out to me and said that this PC actually did come, or no, not this one right here, an M700 it is, with a DVD, drive right there. The person reached out to me yesterday, sent me a very long email that the PC did come, but the hard DVD writer is not so easy to open up. Yes, he did try to open it, but he needed to force it open, and it doesn't seem to be working the way it should. And the buyer said, look, you can send me a replacement. I will be able to do the upgrade or the change myself, which is kind of fair, So I'm going to be sending out a replacement, not the complete PC, but just the DVD drive so that the buyer receives it and then go ahead to change things up. All right. These are some of the things that are waiting. Some people want their invoices sent. I have to go check out some goods. I have to go to the city also to make some purchases. The power supply. I don't know if you saw the rant video I made like 2 days ago. The USB-C port, USB-C to USB-C cable I bought after going all over the place trying to get it didn't finally work. I want to take it back, even though it's already a lot of losses from my end, but I do not care. I feel like I really passed through a lot of stress, getting that USB-C cable, and that it doesn't work. I just want to complete the process by taking it back to get a refund, of my money. It was a very bad experience going to a brick and mortar shop. I hope you guys also don't have that kind of experience. Check out the video and you can inform yourself of all I actually did pass through. The Fujitsu Exprimo D758-756 also sold for 245 euros, including shipping. This is also a very good transaction because what I mean by good transactions, there are some items that just tend to sit for quite a long time. Of course, at the end of the day, like I always say, every PC is going to be sold. Every PC has a potential buyer, but sometimes some of them just takes longer and some of them just takes, shorter. Now I have some really decent PCs like the Lenovo ThinkStations. I'm going to be making a live video on my other channel to talk about those PCs. Those PCs, I expect that they should have sold. Today is Sunday because they are, in fact, right now, if you go onto eBay and just click Lenovo Think, let me take a look. Sorry, Lenovo ThinkStation P330. All right, hopefully my offer shows there. Boom, that's it right there. I'm just gonna zoom in on that, or no. Right. How does this work? Not so sure. So I have to close this, I guess. Guys, pardon me, I'm still getting used to OBS as a platform. All right, so I don't know how that should go. What's this right here? I think this is this one. Okay, I can actually shift that off and I can make that bigger. All right. All right, so if you go right here, that's the Lenovo, that's the offer, that's my offer right here. The Lenovo ThinkStation P330 i7-9700 processor. You know, this thing right here is one very good. You see, every other person pretty much do not have the Core i7 version of this PC. You know, this is a Core i7-8700 processor, but this is not what the people want. But the people pretty much want, you know, something very solid. And this exactly right here is something I can call, yes, I can also just push this to the side. Yes, like that. It is something I can call solid because it has a Core i7 9700K processor. And you also have the option to buy it as different variations, which is you can specify the kind of SSD you want, the kind of RAM sticks. And the beautiful thing is that this PC does come with a graphic card, a Quadro 2000. This is something that I believe a lot of people might be looking out for because the other PCs you have right there, they do not really have, you know, this graphic card. And this Quadro P2000 is a 5 GB DDR5 graphic card, pretty much solid. And if you pair it with this machine right here, you are going to be having a blast of a PC. You know, fun fact, I have the same PC right here. I'm working right now, streaming on this PC. This is a very, very excellent PC, and I do have two pieces of this PC in this warehouse for myself. You know, there's one hooked up to my printer on the other side, and one is hooked up to my, you know, streaming station right here. And sometimes I also use this streaming station to pack stuff. But these two pieces, I'm never going to let them go because I have had nothing but only good experiences with this PC. PC is quiet, super fast. It's Lenovo ThinkStation, and this is one thing I expect should pretty much. Just please go to the comment section, try to write me, you know, comment on the stream. Let me know what kind of items you are currently rocking or selling right now. You see, the high value items, like I said, they are very fun to sell. Yes, you kind of have this cash flow. When an item sells, you immediately get 245 euros in your hands. You make your profit, let's say 40, 60, 50, 60 euros, depending on how you buy. Some of these items will also sell them and make, like these processors, this 40 euros is pretty much all profit because, yes, of course, I have to factor in the eBay, you know, eBay cost and the shipping cost. The shipping fee on this should be about €3.20, and the packaging materials, they are pretty much less than nothing. You know, so in all, I should be going home with about 38 euros here just in profit. I mean, I don't know. Let me just take a look at what eBay is charging for this or not. In any case, let me take a look at that, what eBay is actually taking for this particular transaction. Man, I need to still get used to this stuff, man. eBay is going to take €3.36 on this processor that sold for €41.90. And the shipping cost also, like I said, is about €3.20. And at the end of the day, I have the rest to myself. You know, some items like this tablet here, this Fujitsu Life book, this is something I didn't really pay anything for. This is something I just got as part of a bigger lot that I did buy, and it sold for 99 euros. So pretty much the profit on this will be like 89 euros, or depending on how much eBay took. One can never tell how much sometimes eBay takes, but I feel like this was not so the promoted listings. And if I take a look right here, I can also check that out quickly. eBay took 8 euros for this. And so if you take out 8 euros from this, and then the shipping on this item here is about €6.90. Packaging material, once again, is pretty much something I wouldn't pay for because sometimes I get cartons I can actually reuse. But for PCs, I do not tend to recycle my PC packaging, but on rare occasions it happens. But sometimes if I sell very cheap laptops like this, like the 99 euro laptops, I can always get a particular package carton on the side to just ship it, just to reduce also the expenses that goes with the transaction. All right. But if I'm selling a particular laptop like this, ThinkPad E14 Gen 3 for $349, I want the buyers to get the best experience, which is they open up the box and the only thing they get is, the feeling of a very fresh laptop coming out from a very clean box. And instead of that, I don't want to do that. All right. So we're going to be leaving it here today. Of course, it's not the last video today. Perhaps something is going to come while packing this item. I might have a particular, idea or an idea that I need to share with you guys. Then I want to put up my camera, perhaps go live or even make a dedicated video just to address it. This is the one strategy I'm trying to deploy, and hopefully it is going to be sustainable. Guys, if you are not subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Click on the like button if you are watching this video on replay. Until I see